The call came at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Marcus Hawk Donovan, 67 years old, Vietnam veteran, retired firefighter, President Emeritus of the Iron Brotherhood MC, woke to his phone vibrating on the nightstand beside an empty bed he'd slept in alone for the past 15 years. The screen showed St. Mary's Hospital. His first thought was that someone from the club had crashed. His second thought, the one that made his chest tighten, was that this might be the call he'd been waiting for, the one from his daughter Emily or his son Derek, finally reaching out after years of silence. "Mr. Donovan?" The nurse's voice was professional but gentle. "You've been brought to St. Mary's Emergency. You had a cardiac event approximately 40 minutes ago. Your neighbor found you collapsed in your driveway." Marcus tried to speak, but his throat felt packed with cotton. The heart monitor beside him beeped steadily. An IV dripped clear liquid into his arm. "We've stabilized you," the nurse continued, "but you're going to need to stay with us for observation. Is there anyone we should call? Family?" "Family." Marcus closed his eyes. "No," he said quietly. "There's nobody." The nurse hesitated. She'd seen his leather vest hanging in the closet when they'd brought in his belongings. The Iron Brotherhood patch, the Vietnam veteran pin, the firefighter's cross, 30 years of service medals. "Mr. Donovan, you should have someone here with you." "Call the Iron Brotherhood clubhouse," Marcus interrupted, his voice stronger now. "Number's in my phone under home. They'll come." And they did. By 4 a.m., 15 bikers filled the cardiac ward waiting room. Men in their 50 seconds and 60 seconds, leather vests worn soft from decades of riding, faces weathered by sun and wind and life. They brought the smell of motor oil and leather and brotherhood into the sterile hospital corridors. The charge nurse tried to explain visiting hours. Bear, 6'4", 280 pounds, full gray beard, just looked at her. "That man in there saved my life in '09 when my house caught fire," Bear said quietly. "He pulled me out through flames, lost 3 fingers doing it." He held up his left hand, showing the missing digits. "We're not leaving." The nurse looked at the group, saw the scars, the tattoos, the hard faces, but she also saw something else, the way they stood together, the worry in their eyes, the way the youngest one, probably 50, kept checking his phone. "Room 447, she said finally. 2 at a time, quietly. They rotated through all night. Snake and Diesel went first, sitting on either side of Marcus's bed like gargoyles guarding a treasure. "You scared the shit out of us, old man," Snake said, trying to smile but failing. Marcus tried to laugh, but it hurt. "Takes more than a heart attack to kill me." "Did you call your kids?" Diesel asked carefully. The question hung in the air like smoke. "No," Marcus said. "Boss." I said no, because Marcus knew what would happen if he called. Emily wouldn't answer. She'd blocked his number 3 years ago, right after her wedding. The wedding he wasn't invited to, because having a biker father didn't fit the image she wanted. Derek might answer, but only to explain again why a relationship wasn't possible. His new wife's family had standards, expectations. A motorcycle club president didn't meet those standards. Marcus had sold his truck 5 years ago to pay for Emily's college, $18,000. Every penny of his savings. She'd graduated with honors, never said thank you, and 2 years later told him she was embarrassed by him. He'd paid $11,000 for Derek's rehearsal dinner when his son married into money, rented a suit he couldn't afford, sat at the back table alone while Derek's new in-laws toasted their wonderful family. 6 months later, Derek stopped returning calls. Marcus had 3 grandchildren he'd never met. He'd sent birthday presents every year, books, toys, savings bonds. Every single one came back unopened, marked "Return to Sender." Last Christmas, he tried one more time. Hand-carved wooden trucks for the boys, a dollhouse for the girl. He'd spent 3 months in his garage working on them, sanding every edge until it was smooth, painting every detail with a precision that came from 30 years of firefighting, where attention to detail saved lives. They came back 2 weeks later, unopened. That's when something inside Marcus broke. Not dramatically, just quietly, like a foundation cracking under too much weight. He'd taken the wooden toys to the children's hospital, watched sick kids' faces light up, realized that strangers' children appreciated his love more than his own grandchildren ever would. Now, lying in a hospital bed with a heart that had tried to quit, Marcus understood something fundamental. He was going to die someday, probably soon, and his children wouldn't know, wouldn't care. But these men, these outlaws society said were dangerous, they'd dropped everything at 3 a.m. to sit with him, to make sure he wasn't alone. Over the next 3 days, the Iron Brotherhood ran shifts. Someone was always in room 447. They brought real food. When Marcus complained about hospital meals, they updated the club. They kept him company during the long nights when hospital sounds and fears made sleep impossible. On the 4th day, Dr. Patel came in with test results. "Mr. Donovan, you had a significant cardiac event. Your LAD artery was 90% blocked. You're lucky to be alive." She paused. "I'm recommending lifestyle changes. Less stress, more rest, and you need a support system. Recovery is harder. Alone." "He's not alone," Bear said from the corner. Dr. Patel looked at the big biker, then at Marcus. "Family? The only family that matters," Marcus replied. He was discharged on day 5 with medications, instructions, and warnings. The Iron Brotherhood brought him home, not to his small house, but to the clubhouse. They'd set up a bedroom on the 1st floor, stocked the fridge, made a schedule to check on him. "You're staying here until you're stronger," Bear said, brooking no argument. "Doc says you need people around. We're people." Marcus wanted to protest, wanted to maintain his independence. But the truth was, going home to an empty house scared him more than he'd admit. That night, sitting around the clubhouse table eating chili that Rust had made, my grandma's recipe, shut up and eat it, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt wanted. "Tell us about Vietnam," Tommy said. The youngest member, only 52. Too young for that war, but old enough to respect those who'd fought it. Marcus rarely talked about Vietnam. 13 months in hell, came home to protesters calling him baby killer. Joined the fire department because he wanted to save lives, to balance the ones he'd taken. Rode motorcycles, because the roar of engines drowned out the screams he still heard sometimes. But tonight, surrounded by brothers who understood what it meant to be rejected by a world that didn't understand you, Marcus talked. He told them about Jimmy Chen, his best friend, who died in his arms 3 days before their tour ended, about the promise he'd made to Jimmy's ghost to live a full life, to have a family, to be the father Jimmy would never get to be. "I tried," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "I tried so goddamn hard to be a good father. Coached Little League, never missed a recital, worked double shifts to pay for their colleges." He wiped his eyes roughly. "And somehow I still ended up alone." "You're not alone," Snake said firmly. "You got 15 brothers who'd die for you." 17, came a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned. 2 younger men stood there, Jeff and Carlos, prospects who'd been trying to earn their patches for 6 months. "We heard what happened," Jeff said. "We want to help." And just like that, Marcus's family grew by 2 more. The next 3 weeks were harder than he'd expected. Recovery meant rest, medication, physical therapy. It meant accepting help, which had never been easy for a man who'd spent his life helping others. But the Iron Brotherhood made it work. They drove him to appointments. They made sure he ate. They sat with him during the dark 3 a.m. hours, when anxiety about his heart made sleep impossible. "What if it happens again?" Marcus asked Bear one night. "Then we'll be there," Bear said simply. "Just like we were the first time." On week 4, Marcus's phone rang. Unknown number. "Dad?" Emily's voice. After 3 years of silence, his daughter's voice. Marcus's hand shook so hard Bear had to steady his arm. "Emily, I heard you were in the hospital. Mrs. Winters from the neighborhood called me." A pause. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you blocked my number," Marcus wanted to say. "Because you didn't want me at your wedding. Because you returned my grandkids' presents, unopened." "Instead," he said, "didn't think you'd care." The silence stretched. Then, "That's not fair, isn't it?" Marcus's voice was quiet. "You made it pretty clear I wasn't the father you wanted, so I stopped trying to be someone I'm not." "You're a biker, Dad. Do you know how that looks?" And there it was, the truth she'd been dancing around for years. "I'm also a Vietnam veteran who served his country," Marcus said. "A firefighter who saved 37 lives over 30 years. A man who sold his truck to pay for your education and never asked for thanks. But all you see is the leather vest." "It's not just that." "Yes, it is," Marcus interrupted. "You're ashamed of me. Have been for years. You wanted a father in a suit, working in an office. You got a father with tattoos, who rides a Harley." "I'm sorry, I'm not what you wanted." Emily was crying now. "I didn't mean for it to be like this." "But it is," Marcus said. "And I'm done apologizing for who I am." He hung up. Bear looked at him. "You okay?" "Yeah," Marcus said, and meant it. "Yeah, I think I am." Because something had shifted. For years, Marcus had carried the weight of his children's disappointment, had twisted himself, trying to be acceptable. But lying in that hospital bed, realizing his children wouldn't have known if he died, something broke free. He was done begging for love from people who'd made it clear he wasn't worth their time. 2 months later, the Iron Brotherhood held their annual Veterans Day Memorial Ride. 200 bikes, veterans from 3 wars. They rode to the Vietnam Memorial, placed flags for fallen brothers, stood silent while taps played. Marcus wore his dress leathers, his Vietnam veteran pin, his father's dog tags that he'd carried for 50 years. A photographer from the local paper captured the moment. Marcus standing at attention, surrounded by his brothers, hand over his heart, tears streaming down his weathered face. The photo went viral. By the next morning, it had been shared 40,000 times. News stations picked it up. Local veteran honors, fallen brothers. The community that had once crossed the street to avoid bikers now saw them differently. Emily called again. Left a voicemail Marcus didn't listen to. Derek sent a text Marcus deleted. They saw him in the news and suddenly wanted back in. But Marcus understood something now. Their love was conditional. Present when it benefited them, absent when it didn't. The Iron Brotherhood's love was different. It didn't care about appearances or social status. It didn't disappear when things got hard. 6 months after his heart attack, Marcus stood in front of the chapter. "I need to update my will," he announced. The room went quiet. "My house, my bike, my savings, it all goes to the Iron Brotherhood Foundation for veterans in need, for kids whose fathers didn't come home." He looked around the room. "My children made their choice years ago. You're my family now. You're the ones who'll get everything I have." Bear stood. Then Snake. Then Diesel. One by one, every member stood in silent solidarity. "We don't want your money," Bear said finally. "We just want you." Marcus smiled. "Then you'll get both." Marcus Hawk Donovan is 72 now. His heart is scarred but strong. He rides every Sunday with his brothers, wind in his face, engine rumbling beneath him. His daughter tried reaching out twice more. He didn't respond. His son sent a Christmas card last year with photos of the grandchildren Marcus has never met. Marcus sent it back unopened. Some people might call that cruel. Marcus calls it self-preservation, because he learned that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who sits in hospital waiting rooms at 4 a.m., who makes sure you eat and sleep and heal, who loves you not despite who you are, but because of it. Marcus will die someday, probably with his boots on, riding until his heart gives out for good. When he does, 15 bikers will stand guard at his funeral. They'll ride him to his final rest with engines roaring and flags flying. His vest will be draped over his casket. His brothers will salute. And his children, if they come at all, will be strangers standing at the back, wondering what they lost. But Marcus doesn't think about that anymore, because he's already home, surrounded by the only family that ever really mattered, the one he chose. And the one that chose him back